Welcome to the Laser Channel. In this episode, we're going to make our first laser thing. So stay tuned and let's learn how to make this project from scratch. Welcome back. Before we get started, there's a few basic things that we will need to make our project piece today. We made this out of some simple wood that we picked up over at the Dollar Tree. It's actually the $1.25 tree, but I bought some stuff around Valentine's. You can see that I've already kind of nibbled away on some of that. So this is just their basic plywood that they've been using. It's pretty consistent and works well for a lot of projects. A few additional things that we'll want to use just in general are going to be something to pry our parts out of here if they're stuck a little bit, would be a screwdriver, sometimes a razor blade. And when we're measuring things, Laserbox Basic works a lot in metric, but we're kind of used to inch here in the United States, so I always keep a couple rulers. This clear one has both metric and inch on it, and sometimes clear is kind of hard to see, so I keep a steel ruler as well too. There's also some tie downs that we'd like to do to make sure that when we are lasering some of these objects out that they're not shifting around. So I've got some magnetic strips here that work with my spoiler board inside of the laser that we'll see in just a minute. And along with those things, we also like to use tape. Sometimes we like to mark some things down. Again, Dollar Tree. This is about 1.5 inch wide blue painter's tape. And as we go through and we find settings on our particular machine in our settings, I always like to keep a nice log journal book for that. So I keep a pen and a marker along. So now that we've got that out of the way, we're going to start this project all at the computer. So join me in the computer and I'll see you in just a minute. Oh, and I forgot two important things. One is because we are working with a laser, it is a hobby type laser, but it does throw some power out, and if there is a malfunction while that is running, it can and has been known to start fire. So I always keep a fire extinguisher kind of handy in my shop just in case something happens. And even though this is kind of hobby grade, it does throw out, again, a lot of power, and there are some light leaks that come out. Sometimes we catch a reflection, so these really cool glasses really do come in handy and can save our eyesight, especially if we're making a lot of projects and we're working around this a lot. That repeated exposure to that light can start doing long-term damage to our eyes, so safety first. We're going to start this project all at the computer, so join me in the computer and I'll see you in just a minute. And we've jumped into Laserbox Basic. This is default software that is available for the Xtool D1. And right now we're not connected, that's okay. And here is what we're going to draw. So to start out with, I'm gonna delete that out and we're going to start brand new. So when you start up Laserbox Basic, this is your opening screen that you have. There's a few menu bars across the top here, but we're just going to follow our few basic simple steps to make our first laser thing. So under Insert is where we're going to find all of the objects that we can draw within this software package. It is rather basic, as the title states, but it still allows us to do a lot of neat things. Here we're going to click on Oval. And now our pointer changed to a crosshair, so now if I click and drag, you can see that we in fact are making an oval, but in our example it was a perfect circle. So if I press and hold Shift, it will now constrain that into a perfect circle. So now when I release my mouse button and then the Shift button, now we have a perfect circle. Now let's say that, oh, this isn't quite as big as I want, or yeah, because I want to make this about 2 inches, which in millimeters, if I get out my ruler and take a look at that, that's going to be about 50. So if I highlight one of these and I type in 50, I'll see that it turned back into an oval, and that's because we didn't have our little padlock here locked down. So let me escape out of that again, and let's redraw that again. So we'll go back up to Insert, Oval, click and start to draw. We'll hold the Shift key down again, perfect circle this time again, and release the mouse and the Shift key. Now let's go and click on that lock button. That's going to keep the width and the height locked together. And now let's type in our 50 millimeters, and I'll just click somewhere off to the side here to get out of that entry field up there. So things are looking pretty good. My first laser thing, I made it to hang from a string, so let's go ahead and make another little circle to put the string through, and I can draw this anywhere. Again, so what do? We click and start drawing and hold down the Shift key to constrain that in to a perfect circle. And again, let's click that lock, and from experience, I've just kind of learned from recording in my journal book that 3 millimeters is a nice hole diameter for the string to go through. So again, I've got that clicked in, click off to the side here. Let's go up here until I have this little 4-way bar that we see on the screen. That way it'll grab the entire object. And now we see a couple different things happening on our screen. We have some blue lines that show up, and our circle seems a little bit jerky. This is snapping to the center lines of different objects in here. In this case, it's the center line of the circle. If I move towards the center, we get crosshairs. And here I've snapped to the outside of my smaller circle, and here it's snapped to the exact center line of that. So let's put this somewhere up near the top. That's a little too far. That looks good right there. I can click outside of that, and yeah, I like that. We'll see that when we move our mouse cursor near an object that we drew, we'll turn into a blue line. That'll tell us that if we click on that, we will in fact highlight that. I'll click off to the side over here. If I move towards the center here, I pick up the smaller hole. And if we wanted to move that around, again, we could. And we'll place that back up at the top, click off to the side. Now we need to put some text in. So where do we find that? Again, that's under Insert, and we will move all the way down to Text. And I'm going to draw this outside here. And I've got this box text that goes off the screen, and I can't see everything that it says. So I can use the center scroll wheel of my mouse to zoom in and out, and I always get the two confused, so I usually go in the wrong direction. Now if I want to move around on my screen to get this centered up a little bit, I can press and hold the space bar, and we'll see my pointer becomes the wrong thing because I was in the text box. Let me click outside of that, and there's nothing there. So let's try that again. Text box. We'll click it right there. This time we'll click off to the side so we don't have any objects highlighted. Now when I press and hold the space bar, my pointer turned to a little hand here. Let me release that space bar, and we get our pointer back. Space bar. Now when I click my mouse button and hold it, I can drag the screen around. So now let's get that a little bit better centered up. I release the hand, release the space bar. Now I can click to edit text. And now if I double click inside of that, I get our conventional cursor like we would see in any word processor. So I'm going to backspace and just kind of edit all of that. And let's type something in here. Again, I think I'll type in let's go, I can backspace again. My first laser thingy. Now, one of the pitfalls that we start to see in Laserbox Basic, even though it does a lot of really neat things, is over here I don't have any options for justifying the text. Right now it's all left justified here. I can't right justify or center everything, which is what I want to do. I want to center it. So we'll kind of cheat a little bit, and I'm going to click next to the L there and just hit the space bar a couple of times, and that looks pretty good. Some of the other things that we can do is we can click outside, click on it again, and now all of a sudden we can grab the side of that and move that around, except it's just moving it up and down. I want the whole thing to move together. So when I click back on this, if I want to enlarge the entire text, I can press and hold the shift first and then grab this top, and I can move the entire text box field all together at the same time. Pretty neat trick. And I can release my mouse button, release the shift button. If I click on moving just one part here without the shift button, I can really manipulate my text really well, but that's not what I want to do. And oh, I accidentally left it there. To undo my last change, I can press Control Z. I'll do that one more time because I did that in 2 actions. There we go. That looks about where we started from. Here we'll click on our text box again. We'll see that we're set to engrave at 50% power, at 50% speed. We can also drop this menu box down, and I don't know if this is basswood that we have. I think it's birch, but let's see what basswood looks like. 75% power and double the speed. Let's try that. So I grabbed our text box and I moved it in. And again, once I'm inside of another object, I start getting all of these snap lines that appear, and that's not quite what I would like it to look like. So I'm going to take it back outside the object. I'm going to press and hold shift and grab this top here and just make it a little bit smaller. I like that. There, exactly in the center. Maybe I can make that a little bit bigger. I can press and hold shift and we'll grab the bottom this time. Make that just a touch larger. So we have the center part here is engraved, but the outside we want to make sure that we cut that. So now that I've outlined and highlighted this, we'll click on it. Got that larger circle. Let's go up to our cut line, and yeah, 100% at, let's go down to 3 millimeters per second. That's what it looks like that I have in my logbook again. Pretty handy thing to write down our settings as we learn with the laser. I click outside of the object to clear my selection, and let's zoom in. I'll use the middle scroll button on my mouse, and again I go the wrong direction every time. I zoom in, and I'll go outside of an object, press and hold the space bar, and grab the screen and drag that over until it's just about centered. Now let's find that small circle, click on it once. Let's go up here between cut and engrave. We'll go on cut, and again, let's change this down to 3 millimeters per second. Now one of the neat things that Laserbox Basic does for us is in between engraving versus cutting is that cutting is purple and engraving is an orange color. So we should be all set here. Let's go ahead and turn our laser Xtool unit on. And I just heard the little ding from the USB port. And by the way, I'm on a Windows computer running Windows 10 on it. Now that I have the laser unit on, we can go up to our connection window up here, and let's drop that menu bar down, and laser box on COM port 4. Let's click on that, and as easy as that, we are connected. So let's jump out of the computer for just a minute and set up our piece of workpiece in our laser center. Here's our laser work center. I have the Xtool D1 with a 10-watt laser on it. Anytime before I start placing any work inside of the work area, what I like to do is move the framework, or we call it the gantry. I like to move the gantry back and forth and make sure that all of my cables are moving freely and nothing is getting pulled at a connector. If we're pulling cables at a connector, we'll find that over time those cables will break. Now we'll move this back and forth. There's a couple main things I'm checking for when I do this, that the parts can actually do that movement. I'm not pulling on cables, and that I feel free movement. Sometimes, especially when we start cutting paper, that some of that paper will land on some of these ride tracks on it, and when the tooling goes past that, it kind of stops, and that can throw our laser out of sequence. So we've got that out of the way. Let's get some wood in there and start making our project. I put that in there, and again, I don't want this to move around, so I'm going to grab some of that blue painter's tape that I have. And put that down. I can also use magnets for this, and they also do make some smaller clips that actually fit inside of this board here. They call that a honeycomb. I highly recommend that you purchase that either through Xtool, or there's a number of places you can get something very similar to that. What's nice about the Xtool version is magnets do stick to it. So it's a great way to really secure work in there. Let me show you what one of those clips look like. And here's one of the clips for the honeycomb. It looks like a little T, and it's got a slot in the middle, and those can fit right down in there. And that, you can see that just kind of pushed everything down. What we want to do is make sure our work is tight down to our backing and that everything is flat, and it doesn't matter if we use tape for that, a clip, or a magnet. Next step, and this is one of the most important, is we want to flip down, I call it the can opener, some people call it the kickstand. We flip that down and we adjust our height to make sure that that just touches our work. Tighten up the screw on the side and flip that kickstand or can opener back up, and now we can move around. On my laser, I have the orange protector removed because I've got this big box that I put the unit in, that when it's running it's all encased and I don't have any ambient laser light coming out from that. One of the common questions I see is, well, the crosshair's over here, but we can clearly see that the nozzle's over here. The software knows that there's an offset in between these two, and it takes care of that for us. So I'm going to put our crosshairs right about in the middle here, keeping in mind that we drew, it was a 50 millimeter circle, and that's about 2 inches, and I can eyeball that and I can tell that that will definitely fit inside of that workspace. So back over in the computer, we can see we are all set, and we've got this play button up here. Let's go ahead and click on that. That's going to start our project. So what it's doing right here, that was just compiling what we drew into a format that it can send out to the laser, and the laser can interpret and then start cutting. So this should show up our project that we drew, and that all looks good. The estimated time of completion is 3 minutes. Over here we have this little blue dot, and what this dot is that's where it thinks the crosshairs are right now. So that's the starting point for the laser head, and I actually want to grab that and put that in the center because I was kind of eyeballing, well, it's about a 2-inch diameter circle, so I was eyeballing 1 inch in either direction to make sure that we had enough material for our project. So that looks good. Anytime I go and cut out a project, this framing button will move the laser and show us the actual work area that it will be doing its work. So let's go ahead and click that once. And I like the way that looked. And let's go ahead and hit start. Makes kind of a neat sound while it's running. Let's see if we can get the microphone up near that. And I have this running in real time, and it really does go that fast. And we can see some smoke coming off of that a little bit, but that is normal, and that is why I've built an enclosure to just box all of this in. And let's get another camera angle. We can actually see up near the top there, that is where I have the exhaust outlet. Thank you for watching today's video. I had a lot of fun making this video and sharing kind of some of the things that I've learned over the years working with this type of equipment. I hope that your project has turned out as well as mine did. And if you like this video, go ahead and hit that like button, the subscribe button, and leave a comment. It really helps this channel grow, and it helps others connect with kind of finding this information to get started with their laser. Thank you.